Langdon. Um, we have loads of questions here. I will just start at the top. They're on a various amount of topics, so just tell me if it's a topic that you don't know anything about, and we can just move to the next question. So the first question here is from Melissa. She said, if we see more than one possible outcome for an event, can we choose which Mandela Effect pathway we end up on? She's just wondering, if so, then how do we jump to where we want to go?
It's a very mindful, intelligent question. You must train your mind. You must take the time and the care to train the mind and the breath daily. And in this training, you must calm the breath, slow the heartbeat, slow the respiratory rate enough that the point of consciousness in the mind, in the state of the mind, what you call beta, could be quieted. If beta begins to flatline when we are following your brain waves, alpha will be shortly behind it. If alpha calms and comes into a lower state of coherence, then delta, theta, and gamma will be at your disposal. And then when you return to a point of consciousness, you must pick a thought and focus on it. Some say pick an intention. Yet in our research, we have learned that the human mind has a particular insistence towards intention, and there is a unique rigidity that comes along with such insistence, at which point you become overly specified in your desire to attract a timeline. You may ask, Langdon, what am I overly attached to in this such desire? You are overly attached to your unique specific outcomes. Remember, in the quantum field, energy moves quickly and powerfully. It's very easy to jump into the timeline of your unique intention. However, you must lose your insistence upon result-oriented circumstances and natural consequences. Would you like an example?
Thank you.
For instance, if you wish to jump into a timeline where you are not driving a broken down car and you wish for a different car, you have been taught in what you've deemed universal law that you would visualize such car, you would name it, you would go through your mind and step into the circumstance and the energy field, create unique, intentional, energetic patterns when you meditate upon the car and what it feels like to drive it. Therefore, you have trained your mind to only accept one potential outcome, and say it is a red Corvette. I like that song. You start singing the song, a red Corvette, and you're driving your car and you're pulling the tops down. Wait a minute, they didn't have those tops back then. Either way, you're doing your thing. You want a new Corvette with the tops down, and it needs to be candy apple red. And you're going to play the song and sing along, and the wind's going to rush through your hair. You have built a certain level of desire, a passion that goes along. And that's wonderful. And you've jumped onto that timeline in that moment, in that meditation, in that thought field. And then you go to the dealership the very next day, and the dealership says, well, I'm sorry about that, Pamela. You don't have the line of credit nor the income to actually afford that. And you go, wait a minute, universe. And you shake your fist and you go, but I want that. And I want it that way. But what if that timeline was something you're calling highest and best? And what if there are several momentary steps between that timeline which you have not considered? But in your unique resistance and pain, you shut down the timeline. But something in you says, I still really believe that I can get that Corvette. I don't know how. I don't know. It's obvious that it's not going to be through a miracle of my credit score jumping to some insurmountable number. My boss isn't going to give me a raise, that's for sure, but there is some way, and I'm going to dream it up again. Back to the song. Back down the driveway, back down. Neighbors are jealous, playing the song. Perhaps you got your little dog or your big mastiff, whatever it is you have in the front seat. And you feel good again in that moment. It feels good just to dream it up. No insistence. It just feels good to play. You forget about it. It's fun. It's just to think about it. And you're driving your Hyundai, whatever you replaced the old land yacht with that broke down. But you're still singing about the Corvette because it's fun, not because you're mad at the universe or because you go into a state of emotional unworthiness and you say, why didn't you give this to me? I must be unworthy. I must have something to fix. Something's broken. And you go about your thought stream as if something's wrong with it. That won't get that Corvette. Accepting powerlessness won't get that Corvette. Making it logical won't get that Corvette. You just are enjoying the dream of pretending that Hyundai's a Corvette and being in that field. That's all. 6 months later, something happens. You receive an inheritance, and it's the exact amount of what that Corvette would cost cash. Well, that's an ideal example. It doesn't always come to us so specifically and so quickly. But what if you continue the energy field of the dream, the thought stream? The quantum field will respond not based upon what makes sense or what your credit score is. The quantum field will respond in ways that you don't believe, in ways that you don't even understand. But you must be willing to stay outside of the field of insistence and yet remain specific about your intention. And when those other thoughts arise that pull you back into the former timelines of unworthiness and anger, powerlessness, when will my life ever change? You can't go into that thought stream. Your mind must be efficiently trained to effectively circumvent that timeline. Use your breath, slow down your respiratory rate, slow down your heart rate, and then as soon as the mainstream of consciousness within the beta brain waves are slowing down, as soon as they're slowing down, you can state again, thank you for this, red Corvette. Sing the song again, wake up and stay in the energy field. Keep staying in the energy field. What does a person who drives a red Corvette look like? What do they dress like? What do they feel like? What are their daily attitudes? What are their levels of happiness? You begin to build your energy field by building your belief and then practically stepping into your life to shift your timeline and make it look like the timeline you're willing to jump to. That requires work. A lot of work. We would prefer to remain powerless and victims than do this work. And that's why the Mandela Effect isn't working out very well for you in 2024.
Thank you